Unemployment. What kinds of unemployment are there? Let's start with good unemployment. And you're saying, good unemployment? Yes, there is good unemployment. And here's what good unemployment is. We have, let's suppose that you're a school teacher in Iowa, and you hear that there's school teacher jobs in Vegas, so you quit your job in Iowa and you come apply for a job in Las Vegas. You are unemployed. But you are unemployed by your own choice. You left one job on purpose to go find another job. Okay? Why would you do that? Well, you do that only if you thought you could find another job, right? If you thought to yourself, hey, unemployment's really high, you're going to hold on to your job. In April of 2020, hardly anybody is quitting their job on purpose. Everybody's worried about their job. They're hanging on to their job for dear life. Okay? If people are voluntarily quitting their job to go look for a job, that means the economy is pretty good. Yeah? So we call those people frictional unemployment. Frictional unemployment means you voluntarily left your job to go look for another one. Frictional unemployment is a good thing. Okay? It's a good thing. We have what we call the natural rate of unemployment, and we'll talk about this more when we get to talking about the theories of economics. But unemployment never hits zero because there's this natural rate of unemployment. And the reason it doesn't hit zero is as the economy improves, we start getting frictional unemployment. So when the economy is bad, everybody's staying in their job. We don't have any frictional unemployment. As the labor market gets better and the economy improves, we start to get frictional unemployment. So the better the economy is, the more frictional unemployment there is. The unemployment rate never goes down below maybe 3% because of frictional unemployment. Okay, we got that? All right. Number two is what's called seasonal unemployment. You work at one of these day clubs on the Strip. Well, your club opens in March and closes in October. November, December, January, February, you don't have a job. Maybe more months than that, you don't have a job. You are a seasonal employee. Your job is Santa Claus at the mall. Well, October, November, December, you have a job. Nobody wants to go sit on Santa's lap in July. Okay? You are a seasonal employee. Now, what we tried to do in the unemployment numbers is sort of not count these people. So, in the unemployment numbers, if there's more unemployed Santa Clauses than usual, then we count them, the extra people. If there's less unemployed Santa Clauses than normal, we count the less part. Okay? But you're supposed to be unemployed if you're Santa. You're not really unemployed in July because you're supposed to be. If you're a day club worker, you're supposed to be unemployed in January. It's not unusual. You're supposed to be. Okay? So we try not to let the seasonal up and downs of people jobs, high school kids going out in the summer and looking for summer work. We try not to let those things affect the unemployment numbers. All right. Number three, cyclical unemployment. Cyclical unemployment is the business cycle. What's the business cycle? Remember, we have expansions and recessions and expansions and recessions. Okay? It's actually, there's more terminology and more stuff in there, but we haven't gotten to that. Cyclical unemployment is people who are unemployed because we're in a recession. We would expect them to get employed again when we get back into an expansion. So lots of the people who got unemployed in March and April of 2020, when the economy turns around, when everything opens back up and the economy turns around, they're naturally going to get their job. If they got laid off by a restaurant and now the restaurant reopens, they probably get their job back. Laid off by a casino, now the casino reopens, they probably get their job back. Okay? So cyclical unemployment is the normal up and down unemployment that goes with the normal up and downs in the economy. Doesn't mean it's a good thing. It doesn't mean that we don't have to worry about it, but it's a normal part of the up and down. Okay? The last kind of unemployment is the hardest kind of unemployment to deal with. It's called structural unemployment. Structural unemployment means that there's some mismatch in the labor market. that keeps you from getting a job. Maybe you can't read and write. There's a small percentage, 3, 4, 5% of people in the United States who don't read and write English well enough to fill out a job application. They might be unemployed, structurally unemployed. There might be a job for them and they don't know about it, or they can't apply for it. Okay? There's little towns all over the Midwest that have a factory in them. And when that factory shuts down, my mom grew up in one of these little towns in the Midwest. If that factory shuts down, there's no jobs in town. So if you live in town, you have to drive 30, 40, 50 miles to get a job. Maybe you don't have a car. Maybe you can't. Whatever it is, there may not be any job that you can physically get to. When I was a grad student, we did a study in Denver, and we were looking at unemployed people in Denver, and it turned out there was a really good match between the skills of the unemployed in Denver and the jobs that were available. We could match them up. However, the people who were unemployed were mostly in the city of Denver, and the jobs were in the suburbs. In the suburbs, if you know Denver, it's all different counties. So Denver's ringed by, Jefferson County and Arapahoe County and these other counties. Well, the public transportation in Denver didn't join the counties together. Public transportation was only in each county. So you couldn't get on a bus in Denver and ride out to Jefferson County. You had to get on a bus in Denver, ride to somewhere, walk to where the first bus stop was. Okay? There was a structural problem. And the way to lower unemployment in Denver, the first thing to do was simply to connect all the bus systems. So you could get on a bus in Denver and end up out in one of those other counties. Okay? Is that good? Well, good. All right, so reasons for unemployment. Your book is trying to give you a quick look at what's coming. You really don't get the theory, and so really you haven't had the theory. We're not going to spend a long time on this right now because you haven't had the theory. As we get further along and you start to get more theory behind it, then it should make more sense and we should get somewhere. Okay? So some people believe that the fact that we have unemployment insurance encourages unemployment. Right? If you lose your job and you get paid for 6 months anyhow, it diminishes it, right? It provides you an incentive not to look for work. Okay? We got that? Some people believe that, not everybody. Number 2, some people believe that minimum wage laws create unemployment. And we've already sort of talked about this. The trick to minimum wage laws is they seem to not create unemployment in general, but to change who businesses want to hire. And unemployment laws seem to make them less willing to hire entry-level workers who have no experience. So the overall unemployment rate in the United States now is 14%, but teenage unemployment in the United States is 33%. Okay? And the minimum wage might have something to do with that. Labor unions, people on the right hate labor unions, people on the left love labor unions. Labor unions are responsible for dramatic wage increases in the United States, for increasing benefits and improving working conditions and doing all these great things. In the modern world, only 6% of Americans who aren't government workers belong to a labor union. So how much effect they have is uncertain in the modern world. But if labor unions have raised wages in some industries above equilibrium, then there's going to be some unemployment created. If the wages that they have created are above equilibrium, there'll be unemployment. Okay? Just a thought. And then we have something called efficiency wage theory. The old school theory of economics, the oldest, the Adam Smith School of Economics, says that when bad times come like now, businesses should lower wages. They should lower prices, lower wages, and balance the economy back out. Well, efficiency wage theory says, when you lower people's wages, some of them will quit. And it's not the bad workers who are going to quit, it's the good workers who are going to quit. Because the good workers have an easier time finding a job. You want to keep your good workers, and you want to encourage them to work hard. How do you do that? Well, you do that with high wages. So if the wages that encourage your workers to stay and encourage your workers to work hard happen to be above the equilibrium wage, now we're going to create unemployment. And you're not going to be upset about that. As a business person, you're not going to be upset about that because you've got the best workers that you can find working for you, and that makes your business better. But from societal perspective, maybe there's fewer people working because wages are too high. And it's a maybe. Again, one school of thought. Anyway, the other half of this equation that we need to talk about is inflation. Inflation is a sustained increase in the general price level. Let's explain what that means. So sustained means that it lasts. If prices go up tonight and then they go back down tomorrow, that's not sustained. Okay, during the pandemic, some stuff was in short supply in the stores. Its price went way up. Chicken prices went way up. Beef prices went way up. Toilet paper prices went up. If those things stay up for any length of time, we would consider that to be inflation. But if they go up for a few months because of the pandemic and then they come back down to where they were, then that's really not a bout of inflation, maybe. Okay? And then we have general price level. General price level. Okay? And we'll come back and talk about what that means. Well, we're going to talk about what that means now, actually. All prices do not have to go up for it to be inflation. Computer prices go down. They've been going down for a long time. They're going to keep going down. That doesn't mean as a whole, on average, prices aren't still going up just because computer prices are going down. If everything else is going up and computer prices are going down, on average, we're still going to be paying more for stuff as time goes along. Okay? Very exciting. So there's two numbers here. One is the price level. The price level is the average price of stuff. Okay? It's a really a timey-wimey kind of concept that in some sense doesn't make sense. But the price level is kind of the average price of the stuff that you're paying for. And we'll talk about, we try to measure these things, and we'll talk about how we measure it here in a second. The second thing is the inflation rate. The inflation rate is a percentage of how fast prices are going. So 2019, prices in the United States rose about 2%, maybe not quite 2%. There's some debate among economists about the validity of these numbers, but let's just say 2%. That's the inflation rate. Prices went up 2%. If we go back into the 70s, we often had 12 or 13% increase in prices in 1 year, and I can tell you that consumers like 2% much better than they like 12% increase in the price. All right. So the most used measure of the price level and inflation is this thing called the Consumer Price Index. The Consumer Price Index, the CPI, measures the average prices paid by an urban family of 4. So it's for what are called urban wage earners. It's people who live in cities and who work, your middle class jobs. It's not for doctors and lawyers. It's people who get paid by the hour, live in a city. All right? What percent of the population do you think that is? Yeah. So if you're a college student and you're single and you're young and CPI doesn't really apply to you. It might by random chance, but it's not designed to figure out what your price changes are. Okay? Urban families. That's who? Wage earners. All right? Average prices paid. Now, what do we do to find the CPI? Okay? What we do is we calculate something called a market basket. Market basket. So we ask people, and they survey, over 10,000 people when they do this. We ask people what they buy. So you go to a family and you say, okay, how much peanut butter do you buy? How many jars of jelly do you buy? How many loaves of bread do you buy? What do you pay for electricity? What kind of car do you drive? How much gas do you buy? Blah, 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 blah. And so you've got thousands of households, and you know exactly everything they buy. You smush that together and you say, well, the average American buys 6.2 jars of peanut butter a year and 57 loaves of bread. And you with me? And we figure out what the average one of these households buys, yes? What does this average household buy? Then we go price them. This might be a job that you want, right? Because you get to go shopping every day. So they send people out all over the country to major stores and price all these items. So they get the price of that jar of Skippy at hundreds of stores all across the United States. Right? Then they're going to take that market basket and the prices, and they're going to put it all together, and they're going to say, on average in the United States today, to buy this basket of goods would cost you this much money. Okay? Got that? All right. Then they're going to go out next month and do the same thing. They're going to go price the same basket. The basket's not supposed to change. They go out and price the basket again. And every month they go out and they price the basket again. And they price the basket again. And they price the basket again. All right? You with me on this?